everybody, what's going on? It's Mac here. Welcome back to the next video in the Let's Code series. Today, let's take a look at where we've gotten so far. We've done very little. We've got a background and some headers and formatting for the paragraphs. One important thing that we did do is set up some classes for a hyperlink. And that's going to become very useful over the next few videos. So it was very important that we got that done as soon as possible. But today I thought what we could do was create a footer. It's a little bit of something that we're going to need here. This is what we need to start off with. The biggest part of the footer is social media links, I think. We have a little bit of a bottom navigation that I want to put in there. But for the most part, I feel like, at least the way that I utilize a footer, it's mostly just there for links, external links to social media. And so basically the problem that we're trying to deal with here is that we need icons. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, whatever I want to link to, I need an icon for it. And there are a lot of ways to go about doing that. In the past, I've built my own icons in Photoshop, but I've actually never tried using an icon font, which is what this is. So I thought now would be as good of a time as any to just give it a shot. So in order to use these fonts, we're going to need a little bit of code. So we're just going to go ahead and copy and paste it. And I also thought we could change things up a little bit today and use brackets. Actually, let me see if we can make the text here a little bit bigger. Yeah, I don't know if that's too big, but we'll give that a shot. That should probably do the trick. And close out of that. What have I done here? See, I try to do one little thing and I just totally break whatever's going on. Okay, so we got our HTML open, got our CSS open. Okay, I think we're set. Just a little bit of code that we copied over from Font Awesome. If we take a look, is essentially the same as our link to our CSS document over here, or the link that we copied to use Google Fonts. It's a style sheet, and then it follows a link to go over to where that data is stored. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom of the page, and I want to go right above the closing body tag. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an HTML comment, and I'm just going to name this. I just want a little bit of a separator. So that'll just make it easier for me to know, hey, when you get to this point, stop. So generally when I've played around with HTML in the past, the way that I've built footers is I've done opening and closing div tags and then just built a class and then just put everything inside of those tags. But surprise, surprise, there was something that I did not know. And that is that with HTML5, there were a lot of extra tags introduced. A lot of these. We've got one for footers, headers, articles, all sorts of stuff. And they function apparently exactly the same as a div tag would, but they make it easier to get different bits of your website indexed properly on a search engine. So since we have a footer tag now, we'll just use that. There's not really a reason not to. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to build a class for our footer. So over here in our CSS document, right below where we customize those links, we're going to add a class for our footer. So right off the bat, all we really need to do to get something down there is we're going to do a command here, or a attribute here. We're going to call it background color. And let's set that to, let's see, RGB 0, let's do 15 and 25 maybe. I don't know if that's going to be too dark or not. Let's also give ourselves a little bit more room to work with here over in the CSS. And then what I want to do is I want to bring in a padding command, and I'm going to set it to like 400, a crazy number here. And then if we come out and refresh our little page, what we should have is, I see. We need to do 400px, give it a value there so it knows 400 what. Okay, so now if we refresh, we should have a footer, a very large footer, bigger than I thought it would be. Let's tone that down a little bit there. Okay, that'll be more like it. Once we start to populate this, we'll have to decrease the padding size to get it to be the right size. But for now, just so that we can design it and see how it looks on the page, I'm going to leave it this size. And then we'll start to make some adjustments so that it looks right on the page. First thing we want to do is add a margin up here so that our content doesn't sit right on top of our footer so badly. So let's do a margin top, and it doesn't have to be anything crazy. We can do like maybe 150 pixels. I think that's what we did at the top. So that would make sense. Yeah, that looks nice. And then one thing that I like to do, or that I'm gonna do with this, is I'm gonna do, let's do border top and be We'll do like maybe 5 pixels red, or solid, and then we'll put in the RGB value for my red, which is 220, and then 50, and then 50. Give that another little look-see here, and yeah, there we go. That looks nice. So now we've got the kind of basic design nailed. We can move on to actually populating the footer, and the first thing that we'll do is build a little navigation bar. Should be pretty simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new tab and do div. Inside of the divs, we're going to do a link. And I don't have any of the pages set up yet, so I'll just link to my CSS page. Why not? And then what I'll go ahead and do is I'm going to make a new class for this, and we'll call it, let's see, we'll do footer nav. Okay, we can go ahead and close out of this tab. Oops, I did something wrong there. Go ahead and close out of that. And then inside of this link, we can put any type of title. So I'm going to just put my books. Oh, and actually I put that class in the wrong space. I forgot. Originally I was, when I was messing around, I was having a class for each individual link, and then I figured out that if I just moved it up here inside of the div tag, that would kind of streamline the whole process for us. So, and then what we'll do, now that we have our link set up, is I'm just going to make a copy of this, and we'll paste it about 5 times, just so that we have a few different links here. All right, and then let's just add some content in here. We'll do, I usually have a page that's called like gear I use, which is a cool one. And then do terms of service, service, privacy policy. And then we'll add another link for the sitemap. Okay. And if we go ahead and preview, we should just get pretty much generic text, but this is cool. Since we've set up this link to have its own styling over here in the last video, there we go. We're actually going to inherit those values for all of our navigation links down here, because we have to surround them in A tags to have them link to a different page. So then all we need to do with our new class that we set up here is add the font styling and whatnot. So we'll go ahead and do a new class. We'll call it footer nav. First thing we need to do obviously is change the font. So we're going to do Lato and sans serif. We're going to do font weight 400. Font size, which isn't really relevant because I'm just going to leave it at the default, but I like to have a controller there for the font size, whether I'm going to use it or not. Don't really know why. And then what we'll do is we're going to do text align to the center. And one final little thing that I want to do is I'm going to do text transform, and we'll do uppercase. So when we come out and take a look at our website again, we should have a fairly nice looking little navigation bar. Boom. There we go. I think that looks pretty nice. So the one last thing that I'm going to do, and this won't become immediately evident why we're doing it until we start adding more elements to our footer, is I'm going to do a margin bottom, and we'll do, let's see, maybe like 50 pixels. And that's just so that when we add more elements, we'll have spacing in between them. Every element, except for the very bottom one, is going to get a bottom margin to keep everything spaced out nicely. So the last little issue that we have here, if we take a look, is that our links are working and they look nice, but they're very, very close together. So what I'm going to do to fix that, and I don't know if this is the proper way to handle the situation, but I'm going to do a non-breaking space and make, I don't know, like 5 or 6 copies of it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then just paste this little bit in between all of the navigation links. And again, I've got to figure that this isn't the best way to do it. You could probably set it up in a class maybe, but for now, it works. So that's what I'm going to stick with until I come up with a better idea. Okay, so next thing that we want to do, I'm going to go ahead and get out of this div tag here, and we'll open up an H3. So we want a nice little header down here to go in front of our social links. We'll just give it a header. We'll call it social links. And we'll need to, and if I do like class H3, it'll actually work pretty nicely and look cool, but we're going to have a couple of issues. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of H3 because it will work almost perfectly for what we need, but the one issue that I'm seeing we're going to run into is right here, this top margin. We're gonna need to get rid of that, and that'll actually be it. That's the only change that we need to make, but we'll go ahead and do footer header. So footer, header, and now if we refresh the page and take a look, that'll look great. And that being said, we will add a little bit of a margin on the bottom, maybe like 20 pixels or something, just so that we have a little bit of space in between the icons. And speaking of icons, we are now ready to move on to them. So you guessed it, we're gonna open up another div tag for our icons. And we're gonna need another class for that to organize the icons. So we'll go ahead and just add that. We'll do class, it's gonna be equal to icon container. Okay, and then inside of this, what we want to do is do our link, ahref. We can link to our social media pages here. Yeah, I just thought about that. So let's actually do that. I'm going to link to, let's see, we'll start off with my Twitter. We'll do twitter.com/maxecr. Okie dokie. And I'm going to add a little bit of extra here called target, whoops, and then blank. And what that's going to do is make sure that when we click on our link, it's going to open in a separate tab rather than take over the page. And then inside of this, we need one more separating deal here. The issue is that the div tag wants to take up an entire kind of horizontal line across your page. And so if we just have these inside of a div tag, we can't stack them next to each other, which is a real pain. So actually, hang on, let me look at something real quick. Originally I had to do two separate classes for the icons, but I'm thinking maybe we can try it without it and get the same results. Let me just look at something real quick. Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna try to put the class inside of the link and we'll see if it works. It might not, we might have to come back and make a change here, but we're just gonna see what happens, okay? So let's go ahead and get an icon to use. When you come to the Font Icon website, it's pretty easy to find stuff. We can just search for like Twitter. There's a nice Twitter icon I like. I click on it, and then up here at the top of the page, as soon as it loads, we're just gonna have a little bit of code that we copy. So that's that. Okay, and I'm gonna need to make one more copy of this link here to test and see if it'll work. And then let's render that preview of our page. Yeah, I think it might actually work without the... So let me just show you. Originally in my original setup, what I was doing was I had a link, and then inside of the link tag, what I had embedded was a span tag, because the span will only take up as much space as it needs to. And then I had the class on top of the span tag, and then trapped inside of that, I had the code that we needed for our icons. But now I'm thinking, and it looks like I'm right, that we won't actually need that. So let's set up our classes and make sure. So I'm going to do a new class and call it icon container, and then open that up. Inside of this, all we're really going to need to do is a text align command to the center, and then we also want to do a margin bottom of about 50 pixels. Okay, and then over here for our second class, the icon class, we need to open it up, and then we're going to set the font size to about somewhere between like 2 and 2.5. I found 2.3 worked pretty well for me. EM, which is again just a scale of the default font size, which is about 16 pixels, and then we'll see if it works. Holy crap, I think it's gonna actually do it. That's incredible. I can't believe it works. That's so cool. Okay, so let me go ahead and get the rest of our code here. We're gonna need, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 total different classes here. So let's do that in there, or 12 different links hooked up. And we should have 12 different little Twitter icons when we refresh here. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep, looks good. And so now we just need to change all of these to the proper thing. Now that's the same process that you use for everything. Just go through, search for the icon, and when you click on it, right up here at the very top of the page, it's going to have the code. If you just click the code, you can copy and paste it in there. You can copy and paste it in there without an issue. But for time's sake, and because I can't imagine that it's very stimulating content to just watch me go and search for icons and then copy and paste, I'm just going to go ahead and do it all. So now if we go ahead and refresh the page, we should have 12 different icons, all looking very nice. And the last thing that we want to do is, I think that these links are, these icons are just a little bit too close together, but I don't really want them that much farther apart. So what I'm about to do is going to make me look like a total like prima donna, but I'm going to add a command here, padding, literally 1 pixel, and then refresh the page, and that's it. I mean, I tried 1.5. It just looks the best with 1. But also keep in mind, it's padding around all 4 corners, so technically it's 2 pixels in between each. I don't know if that makes it better. Okay, whatever. Last little thing that we're going to want to add here is a little bit of text down here at the bottom. So this is just going to be inside of a p tag, nothing too fancy. And we will go ahead and make another class for it. We'll call it class footer text. And then all we want to do is I'm going to do the copyright sign, and then we'll do copyright 2012 to 2019 to me. Quick little line break, and then all rights reserved. I don't know if that statement would hold up in court, but whatever. Okay, and then for our paragraph down here, we're actually going to piggyback off of the paragraph the same way that we did with the header. So let's go ahead and grab that, and let's see. So text align is going to be center now. We don't really need either of these margin tabs. They're not hurting anything to be there, but I'm going to go ahead and get rid of them. And then we'll change the size to 1 EM, and we can get rid of that top margin command and see what we're dealing with here. Okay, something has gone horribly wrong. Let's see. Oh yeah, I see. We need to change the name of the class. So footer and then text. Save that up. Try it one more time here. And yeah, there we go. That's looking nice. Final step here. We're going to shrink this footer a little bit. It's too big now. It was originally not big enough, but you know how it goes. So we're gonna go to about, do maybe like 50 pixels. Yeah, that might work. Oh, and of course I'm changing the size by just editing the padding amount, and that's not gonna be enough. So we'll try, let's see, 100 maybe. Yeah, that'd probably be fine. I'll make it just a tad little bit smaller. We'll do about 80. Okay, that looks really great, I think. Yeah, that looks really nice. So cool. That's gonna be it for this video. In the next video, we'll take a look at the headers. Just seems like the natural progression from footers. So be sure to check that out. I'm not sure if this is gonna come out on a Monday or a Friday, but if it comes out on a Monday, the header video will be here Friday. And if it comes out on a Friday, the next header video will be here Monday. So thank you for watching, everybody. I will see you in the next video.